Hi, I'm Kathi Eric Dalguntas, and welcome to Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points.
So excited to have you here, Kathi, joining Paul and I. And for those listening, Paul and I met Kathi through Substack. We are all Substackers, and as anti-social media as I am, I find this version of social media to be the most tolerable because you get to meet amazing people like Paul and Kathi. And so very excited to have you guesting with us. I'm going to be reading through a job posting that I found recently, and then we are going to roast it together. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and hopefully give some advice for the job seekers and the job seekers. I found this job posting with the help of AI. I was really struggling to find a job posting. I wanted it to be in like e-health or like learning tech type, I don't know, situations. Paul, I'm sorry, you have to edit that. Anyway, or don't, or just leave it in.
Jen, this is how I build the blooper reel for our Christmas special.
So embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. So I couldn't find a job posting that I felt would be suitable maybe for your background and expertise, Kathi. And so I was like, no, keep looking. And I found some that were pretty like tame, and I wanted something interesting, and I didn't find one, but ChatGPT helped me find a job posting that's no longer up. And so this is what I found. And I'm going to go over the roasty profile. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the details about the job posting itself, and then we can get into it. The role is Director of Pedagogy. No, wait, sorry. Is that how you say it?
Pedagogy?
Is it? It's not pedagogy?
Pedagogy? Maybe?
Say that word.
Okay, I am a university educated dude, and to make it even better, I have a liberal arts education, and I'm gonna just need to hit the Google right now and make sure I know what pedagogy. What did we settle on? Pedagogy.
I love it. I actually don't know.
Goo-goo. But like there are certain words that I read them in my head and they make sense. Like I know what it means, but I've never said the word out loud. I have never had an opportunity in my life to say certain words out loud, and that's one of them. So what is the word?
So for the folks at home, the Google says that pedagogy means the method and practice of teaching, especially as an academic subject or theoretical concept. Example, the relationship between applied linguistics and language pedagogy.
But how do you say pedagogy?
I like pedagogy so much, I'm just going to keep saying pedagogy.
The role is called Director of Pedagogy, E-Learning Instructional Design. So the roasty profile. Job title, Director of Pedagogy. I really hope I don't have to say this word any more than that. E-Learning Instructional Design. Reports to title is unknown, so that means it's not listed in the job posting. Company size, 51 to 200 employees. Industry is e-learning providers. And what do? They leverage advanced technology to provide personalized industry-leading language learning ecosystems for K through 12, higher education, and corporate environments. Their head office location is Toronto, Ontario. The job location is remote Canada. Their geographical operating area is global, and the job is full-time. Good?
Good.
Okay. Let's do it. So I have to say it again. Director of Pedagogy, E-Learning Instructional Design. This is the setup of the actual job posting. I'm not going to read verbatim. I'm just going to read some key points and we can get into it. It starts with an About Us section. The company combines over 2 decades of language learning content with state-of-the-art technology. We strive to enable educators in delivering personalized learning experiences in blended classrooms and online. With offices located in both Canada and China, we offer a diverse selection of education programs and advanced learning methodology and content management systems for K through 12, higher education, and corporations. Their mission is to build a multilingual world using the best technologies and language learning methodologies. There's a little bit more in the About Us section, but those are kind of the main points that I wanted to bring up. I'm going to go straight into primary responsibilities. This is not a long job posting whatsoever. So primary responsibilities: product development, research needs, interview stakeholders, define vision and structure, and oversee the development, which is the design, content, definitions, and production of products for language learners of all ages. Curriculum design and delivery, online and blended EFL, ESL courses, professional development, and English for special purposes. There's
And just quickly for the folks at home, EFL is English as a first language, and ESL is English as a second language.
That's right. Thank you, Paul. There's a bullet point for project management, instructional design, and then we go into training and management. But I'm going to stop there first because maybe we can dig into that first section of primary responsibilities, the product development. Was there anything there that stood out to anyone on this call? Anything that's kind of standard or odd? Red flags, green flags, beige flags?
I'm personally very curious, like the big nerd in me kind of wants to see their technical architecture and look under the curtain a little bit. Because if this is a learning management system provider that's been around for 20 something odd years, that suggests to me that they might be running on like .NET or something like that, which modernizing those systems in a modern technical environment is really quite challenging. I worked with a company not too long ago that they were trying to move away from the .NET framework to something that was a little bit more like exposable, extensible, and they had to like can it. They had to just like say, nope, too complicated. We're going to work on this legacy thing forever. So I'm really curious about that. I don't think that they'll say anything about that in the job ad. I'm also really kind of seeing a bit of a familiar pattern so far where there are some things that you don't think would go together in the job ad being put together. Like I'm hearing instructional designer, and I'm hearing project manager, and I'm hearing some other things that are like, this is all one role, but I'll reserve judgment. What do you think, Kathi?
Yeah, I think I had the same cognitive dissonance when they described one of the very first responsibilities as product development. Pedagogy to me is, the curriculum and what you're teaching. And so I think on that topic in particular, it could either be a good or a bad thing, because if you think of it as a product that you're delivering to the student, maybe it creates this discipline to think about the student experience. But it could also be a bad thing because you're thinking of it as a product to deliver to something, not as something for the student to learn. There was some cognitive dissonance there for me. And to your comment on this melding of instructional design and project management, I think that that's a really important pattern to notice, because I see that happening everywhere. I think this is becoming an age of corporations wanting to hire 3-in-1 employees, 5-in-1 employees if they really can. Customer support people have started becoming salespeople all of a sudden, and so that's already an indicator for me that they seem to be going for a similar thing here.
I totally agree. Paul and I are seeing this more and more, where jobs are they're expecting you to wear so many different hats and be responsible for so many different things. And then I think that's part of the reason why filling roles is taking so long too, is that everyone is looking for this unique individual who can do all of these things. And they're forgetting that, like, really, what is the primary focus of this role? What do you need them to be exceptional at? What do you need them to be really experienced at? Because the rest maybe can be done by supporting roles, but people don't want to pay for those supporting roles. One important thing too that maybe I should have mentioned in the bullet point that says project management, It says coordinating with design, programming, and other functions of the organization. That's all it says. It doesn't say like doing what. It just says under project management, you're coordinating with these different functions of the organization. And then under instructional design, it says the ability to conceptualize, develop, and articulate vision for our programs, including product management, content, overseeing design, training, and materials development. So
this is where, and Jen, we talk about this. Geez, I feel like we talk about this almost every week. This is where getting a sense of the org structure would be really, really valuable to somebody who's looking at this job ad, right? Because like what we're talking about here, it's director of pedagogy, e-learning instructional design. Okay, great. The job ad though is saying project manager plus kind of like the high level director for curriculum activities. Okay, that sounds a little bit weird on the face of it, but what if the org structure was such that there was like a business unit that was wholly responsible for developing curriculum? If that's the case, then as the director, you're just kind of giving them the high level guidance, and maybe that's okay. I would say that this is still very weird framing for a job like this. If there's a dedicated business unit for like the course design, I don't know, like org design, like an org structure chart or something, some sense of what the organization looks like be super valuable right now.
yeah.
You'd be surprised though, behind the scenes, from my experience as a recruiter, sometimes when they say it happens all the time where a director or a VP will say, "Oh, I need this job." And they're thinking about this within their own silo. They don't even think about like who else in this organization might actually be doing this job already. And so I agree with you. I think there should be a holistic, like architectural approach to this, but it happens way too often that jobs get posted out there that is because of a siloed request from somebody who doesn't know what's going on with the rest of the organization.
This is 100% accurate. That has happened to me in my career so many times. And like you said, who else has the skill set that could be doing this? Even like internal promotions, internal mobility, not even a promotion, but like a lateral move. Like nobody's looking holistically at the org. And so like what Paul touched on, what we've noticed the more we dissect these job postings is that very rarely do companies, if ever, talk about reporting structure, like who are you reporting to, what is the team size, anything like that. And that would give the applicant a really good idea of what life could be like at this organization. There's only one more section for primary responsibilities. So we had product development, which again, language is a little bit weird because it talks about curriculum design, but you touched on that. So then we have training and management. Support sales by providing pedagogy rational to prospective and existing clients. This is just a reminder to everyone that I'm just reading it as written. So I think they mean rationale. But it's not written as rationale, which is interesting because it is like e-learning job, but that's okay. We're, baby steps. So support sales by providing rationale to prospective and existing clients. Strong training, presentation, and communication skills. Provide teacher and user training to clients. Ability to work and adapt training and communications to larger organizations internationally, including ministries of education, as well as smaller companies, and oversee a team of content writers, local pedagogy support, and outsourced parties. I'm sorry, I'm going to laugh every time I say that because I feel so self-conscious about that word. Any thoughts on the training and management section of the primary responsibilities?
They just keep tacking things on. It's like this Lego job, and then, oh yeah, and you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do this too. It's like, okay, you're gonna be a teacher, you're gonna create the curriculum, but you're also going to design the laptops and the iPads that they're going to use, and then you're gonna work with the salespeople who are selling those laptops. Yeah, sign me up? Love that.
It's this also, I love how you said, this is kind of a Lego job. Let's just keep on stacking things on. That's a great description for what we've heard so far. I wonder how well the organization has even thought through what they need functionally, because this is kind of shaping up to be a little weird. And the one of the things that stood out for me, at least in what you just said, was you'll be selling to ministries of education as well as the other customer groups. Whoa. Like, hang on a sec. Selling into, like, the difference between consumer sales and enterprise sales is pretty big already. Like, there's a wide gap between those two types of organizations. But selling to government, that's an entirely different beast. Like, that is a thing. So you need to be able to also support sales activities and presentations to government customers. That's a dedicated person right there. Like, any organization that sells to government customers, government clients, they have a dedicated function to do that, like a specific person, usually supported by other people, because it is such a beast. Like, I could see this person kind of sitting in on sales calls to be, like the higher up important person to kind of make them feel good. I could absolutely see that. But doing anything that is kind of actually important and generating work output for that sales cycle, that's going to be a huge ask with all these other kind of things in the mix.
That's a good point. I had initially assumed they would be taking on a sales function as well, but um, I know that in like some technological kind of industries, they have what they call like a I'm blanking on the name. It's like this expert in the process, so that when a salesperson talks to an expert and they ask technical questions, then you have somebody there who can speak to it. And perhaps maybe that
Mhm.
is what they mean about sitting in on those sales calls.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, in insurance particularly, typically when you're going into an enterprise and selling insurance technology solutions, like, you've got a sales engineer on the call all the
That's
time.
it. Yeah. A sales engineer. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that there are just two sections for the primary responsibilities. Like I said, this is a really, really short job posting. It really doesn't have a lot to it. This is why I also like to know, is this a net new role? Is this a replacement role? That information is really helpful for people. I would like to see, like, the thinking behind the job. And it doesn't have to be like a novella. It can be a couple of bullet points of, like, we realize that due to the nature of blah, 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 this is a very high value role for the organization. And this is why the role was developed, or whatever. Like, when the company I work for was recently hiring an ops coordinator, we just had a little section that said net new role. Here's why we feel like we need this role. And it automatically gives the candidate that opportunity to tie their value to the role. They can see, like, immediately, okay, this is how I'm adding value, because it's so important to understand the role you play in an organization. So just like a couple of bullet points, a couple of sentences that explain to explain that, I think would be really helpful as well.
Yeah.
Um,
And that new thing too, like, we were talking a couple of weeks ago during a taping, if you remember that CPG industry association that we roasted the job ad for it. We were kind of musing out loud, like, is this kind of like a first hire into this role? And it really felt like it was. Maybe it's the same here. Like, maybe this is a role that hasn't been around before, like you say. And if so, say that and accompany it with a purpose statement. Like, anytime that I'm writing a job description, I usually accompany it with a purpose statement and say, the purpose of this role is to X, in like a sentence or two, and not just like mind the fish and count the beans in the bowl and put like A and B or whatever. Like, your purpose is to play this role in the organization and add this value, and that's that.
Yeah.
Everything flows from it.
Yeah, I like that. It's funny though, Paul, because I thought the exact opposite. I thought this might be a backfill role. And it's making me wonder if, like, the story I created in my head from this job description was there was somebody who was in this role already who was so valuable that they got pulled into, oh, the salespeople needed their expertise. And so they got pulled into that. And they got
Mm.
pulled into project management because they were so good at leading change and influencing. And so when they lost that person, the organization just kind of calcified in their head that like, oh, one person can do this, and I want the exact same person to do exactly what they did. So that was the story I was telling myself in my head.
It's
A
so
really
funny.
good point.
We do that too all the time. Like we each have our own story of what we think is happening in the background, and it's just totally made up, but everyone reads that story differently. And I kind of agree with you. I mean, it does say that the company has 51 to 200 employees. I wonder if the majority of them are contractors. In a situation like this, I feel like they're probably mostly contractors. And I agree with you. What if this person who's in the role had all these capabilities? They're like, we're just going to clone this individual, which is another topic that Paul and I talk about a lot, is that that's not strategic. You don't want to just clone high performers and stick them in the role, because it's just very, like, often doesn't work out that way. But it does feel like it's cobbled together based on someone's abilities. And, or maybe that person left and they wore a bunch of hats, and now, like you said, they're just trying to replicate that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it would be a good question to ask, why did they leave? Maybe they were overworked and stretched too thin, if that were the case.
In interviews, I always ask, is this like, tell me about this role? Is this a replacement role? Like, it's okay to ask those questions. And even if they have kind of a formulated answer for you, most of the time companies are not ready for it. So how they react when you ask that question is a good indicator as well. Just to give you, just trust your gut a little bit, ask those questions. You have the right to find out what is the background of this role, why does this role exist, and why now. I'm going to go into desired skills. They have education and experience, minimum 10 years experience in the field of pedagogy and ESL, EFL, experience developing e-learning solutions with a wide adoption success, advanced degree in education or language studies, direct classroom or online teaching experience. Then it goes into other, really short, so I'm just going to read through it. From time to time, remember, this is in the desired skills section, so it's, again, a weird layout. I'm always annoyed by how these things are laid out, but it says from time to time may be required to publish white papers or write articles related to pedagogy issues. Goal-oriented, self-starter, and team player. Our company operates internationally. The ideal candidate must have the ability to understand and work with cultures in Latin America, Asia, and beyond is key. So I'm just going to read that last sentence one more time. The ideal candidate must have the ability to understand and work with cultures in Latin America, Asia, and beyond is key. So that, again, I'm having issues because this is a company that's supposed to be like educating on ESL and EFL, but there are a lot of grammatical errors here. So when I see things like this, and when I see the way that the job posting is laid out, it makes me wonder. Paul and I like to play the game of like, guess who wrote this job posting? And I don't think that it is necessarily someone with an HR background. I think it's someone, maybe it's even the person that they were replacing, who's so busy that they're like, okay, quickly jot down what it is that I do and what we're looking for, and then put this out there. But curious to hear others' thoughts about the desired skills, education, experience, and other section.
I will, I'll let you go first, Kathi. I feel like I'm just like stepping on your words all the time, so you can go first.
Not at all. I love what you've been saying. For me, it was there's this discrepancy between the responsibilities and the skills. The skills certainly were focused on on a typical pedagogy person who has the experience, but the very first thing they said in the responsibilities was product development. That's a whole set of skill sets that you should be looking for to be successful in that. It's the exact same thing with product management, change management, project management, right? So that was a glaring red flag for me. And something that I've seen in the past, which is why I really feel like the hiring process is so outdated, is because what not always, but what tends to happen is a position opens up. They look at an existing job description that's probably been around for maybe like 5, 6, 7, 10 years. and then they just see what they can tack on and what they add. And this looks to me like a Frankenstein job description of an original pedagogy person that now they want to also develop products and market and train and manage change.
Yeah, for me, I was completely lost when they said you ideally you will have classroom teaching experience. I was like, hang on, so you want a former teacher, like a former educator, to be stepping into this role, and they need to have project management experience, and they need to have product, like you said, Kathi, they need to have product development experience, and they need to have kind of sales support, marketing support experience. Like, what in what universe does that person exist? I don't get it. Now, if classroom experience means ESL and EFL classroom, like you kind of taught through like a community college or something, night courses for ESL and EFL. Okay, yeah, I could kind of see that, but it's still, this all seems super weird. I'm not sure that this person actually exists, other than perhaps this one unicorn that they had, and they asked them to write the job ad on the way out, like you said, Jen. Like, this does kind of smell like somebody who's got, about 5 seconds of attention to devote to this, and they just stream of consciousness it down, and then walked out because their 2 weeks was up.
Yeah, I agree. Like, where is any of the requirement for, it's everything you said, sales experience or anything like that. Even like, if you're dealing with ministries of education and things like that, well, what about that kind of experience? It's all just missing. So I think you're right. And we see this often. It feels like it was copy and pasted from a previous job posting from like 10 years ago, and they just didn't do a great job. So I go back to, well, who wrote this? Because it just doesn't make any sense. So
the one kind of positive thing that I'm taking so far out of this is that it does not, everything that they've listed in terms of experience and kind of what they want and your background and the responsibilities, it doesn't seem like it's a dyno, a director in name only. It does seem like it's an actual director job, and maybe we'll see if the pay is commensurate. I hope it is.
That's such a good point. Like, I have not really seen like director level responsibilities here, other than the 10 years requirement for 10 years of experience. But yeah, it's a good point, Paul.
This is why we want to see at least who this person reports to. What is the title? What's the naming convention like in this organization? Because
Yes.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
There is nothing in here that's speaking to a director level. And we're not going to get that, because then it goes into about the company. So it started with about us and it talked about the company. It ends with about the company. And I won't bore you with reading it because it's almost exactly the same as what was written at the very top of the job posting. And that's it. So there's no talk about benefits. There's no accommodation statement about, if you need any accommodations to pursue this opportunity. There's no AI disclosure about how or if they use AI. And there's nothing speaking to the culture. Why would you join this company? This is to me, the biggest story that the job posting tells is that this is not a high, like, positive culture type organization whatsoever. You're not telling us anything about what it's like to work at your organization, and what's in it for this individual. So overall, that's the job posting. What we're going to do is talk about salary guesses, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to have the two of you read the thing from start to finish, and we can give the final ratings. But before we go into that, I just wanted to make a note. When we talk about culture and how important it is to speak to culture in your organization, I like to do a little bit of research when I find these job postings and see what I can find culturally. And I did find a Glassdoor account. There was one review. It's from April of 2025, so like a year ago. There's only one. And I'm just going to read it for you two. So pros, good team who are doing their best under impossible conditions. The cons, CEO creates an incredibly toxic culture by yelling, swearing at subordinates when things don't go his way, chasing short-term deals instead of building a long-term strategy, no vision for future of company beyond let's make lots of money, provides no HR department or support, running most ill-managed company ever encountered. Advice to management, advice is for employees, and that is to get out while you can. So
So that review was written by the person who left this role the first time they tried to leave, and they got wooed back with like more money and a title bump, and now they're on the way out again. Is that
I
what
think
happened?
we're
I think that's
piecing
what
it
happened.
together. I think we're piecing it together. Like, what is the story? So I shared that with you, and we know the people who go on Glassdoor mostly are disgruntled. We get that, and I think that they have a right to air their grievances. Like, I don't have any problem with that, and I know every situation is a little bit different. But when you start to see patterns, which there's only one review, so we can't really see a pattern, but what we can see is that they don't speak to culture or anything that's like I said, in it for the individual. It does tell a story. So yeah, just wondering what both of your thoughts are on that and how it ties into the job posting itself.
It definitely lines up with the job ad, right? Like the like you mentioned, the job ad is very bereft of cultural markers. Like there's nothing in this job ad from an employer branding perspective that says to me like, hey, we have a purpose. It's about more than making money. This is why you should join us. And people who even today, like with a weird labor market, like the best people typically don't care about money. It's not their primary motivator. The best people care about legacy, about building things, about impact, about what they can accomplish at the organization. So when you're writing these job ads and you don't talk about what your purpose is as an organization, you're not catching any of those people. Like they might skim the job headline and maybe the salary range and get a couple sentences in, and then they're out. That review kind of reinforces what was missing in the job ad.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I mean, looking at the job description through the lens of a job applicant, I mean, it's a damn shame. It's such a beautiful mission to create a multilingual world. Like, hell yeah, sign me up. But then I look at the job description and the responsibilities and the requirements and the lack of thought behind what, like the culture, like you said, it clearly shows this, oh, they're just saying this is their mission, but what they're really focusing on is minimal overhead and maximum profit is what this screams to me. So the whole Glassdoor review just really validates that, oh yeah, they really try impossible conditions. Like that's it. Like that nailed it for me.
And we guessed that this was not written by someone who has a traditional HR or recruitment background, and it sounds
100%.
like, based on that review, that we are absolutely bang on. So let's go into salary guesses. This role, as we said, it's remote. The company is a Toronto, like I guess they're trying to get someone maybe Toronto-ish area, but remote Canada, director level role. Let's have our guest Kathi take a first stab at what you think the salary range is. I know this is my least favorite part. Hate this, get it wrong all the time.
And to make it even more fun, the exchange rate on the Canadian dollar to the US dollar is about 30%. So take the number
Okay,
in your
thank you.
brain and add 30% to it.
Thank you, because my knowledge is more in the US market. Damn, for like I just don't have a very high I don't have a high belief in the CEO of this company, so I know they're gonna lowball this position. So I'm gonna guess 130K, 130K, somewhere around there.
I just love you so much for being such a generous queen.
No, that does bring up kind of an interesting thing to talk about. Like in general, salaries in the U.S. for professional positions are higher than in Canada, and the trade-off is that we don't need to pay co-pays for healthcare, so like we can take smaller salaries, like it's fine. But like generally speaking, in the U.S., like salaries and wages are higher. So, like Kathi, when you put that number out there, you thought that was a low ball, right?
Yes, I did.
What
Because
do
I
you
mean,
what
for
do
a
you think?
director,
Yeah, what do you think that a job like this should be paid? If it was to be fairly paid, what number would you put there?
I mean, for all of the roles and responsibilities, uh, I would imagine somewhere between 145 to 160K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Paul, what's
that's so
your guess?
fascinating. So for me, I think that the range that they're putting on the job ad, and I also think that this is a lowball number. I think that the range that they're putting is between 75 and 90
It's
Canadian.
so way off.
And I think that this is worth between 120 and 140 in the market. Yeah, no, like you said, Kathi, your experience is in the U.S. market, and there is a wage discrepancy between the two markets for a bunch of different reasons, and people argue about it all the time. Up here and down there, like, oh, people in Canada are paid so poorly, and we're like, oh, people in the U.S. are paid so well. It's not that simple.
Yeah.
Quality of life is a
Yeah.
big factor that goes
It's
into it, right?
apples to oranges for sure.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
and just to add some like context behind how my brain works, because I have done like job comping
Yeah.
and I've built like career leveling matrices and what the responsibility should be. And I have scoped project management roles, product development roles, sales roles, director level leadership roles. And like that is how my brain works. And if I am blending that job, if I'm looking at this pay scale system and blending that job, like I legit would pay this person. I think they should be at 145 to 160K, depending on their level of experience and their capability. Like that's where my mind
Yeah,
is.
I
yeah,
agree. I do the same, right? Like you're looking at all sorts of factors, and a lot of it is like scope of work and ambiguity, even, right? Like, is this person going to have some the ability to like go out and problem solve and make decisions without checking with anyone? Well, we don't know because we don't know what the reporting structure is. But just as the job itself is not very generous, neither is the salary. And the salary is Canadian dollars 70 to 80,000
so it's
Canadian
pretty close. That's
per year.
awful. That's
Isn't it?
terrible.
Travesty.
It
What?
is a travesty. It is heinous. And I couldn't find it in the like job posting itself. What I had to do is find it. Like it was posted on Indeed as well, but a little bit different title. So I don't know if they were trying to cast like a wider net and see what they could find. But that is the salary. And again, they're not listing any of the benefits, anything else. It's $70,000 to $80,000. The spread itself is like a $10,000 range. That's it. Um, I have seen job postings lately that explain their range and say, here's why this is the range. Here's what we usually hire into, and here's what is required in order to hit the top of the range, right? Like that is very
Yes.
helpful. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work when you don't have a dedicated person whose role it is to do things like this. But I think it's worth it. I think the more information you can give people, absolutely the better, so that you can attract the right person for the role. That's what you're trying to
Yes.
do here. Yeah.
The role's designed to be a high impact role, clearly, the way
Mhm.
they're putting
Yeah.
it together. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is oof,
Wild. Okay, so
unacceptable.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's like 60 grand US on the bottom end. That's brutal.
Okay, we're going to go into a brief intermission. Okay, so we're back. We each had time to review the full job posting, which will be linked in the show notes or something like that, right, Paul?
Yep. We'll put the full job post up on the episode page. We'll put that link in the show notes so y'all can kind of read through it, follow along, and whatnot. We'll also have links to Kathy's Substack and some other kind of secondary links that support what we're talking about in the show up there.
Groovy. Okay, so Kathi, would love to hear your thoughts and your rating on the job description as well as the job design, and also kind of any guidance or advice you'd have on maybe the person applying for this role and the organization itself.
Yeah. I think job design 3 out of 10. Job description similar. I guess 4 out of 10. I think that it's a very hollow Frankenstein of a job, and there's clearly not enough thought put behind um, how this role fits into the organization, how it provides value, and how to attract the right candidate, job description wise. So I think for me, I can, uh, if I think about the job applicant experience, my general advice for them is, one, this is a two-way process. It's easy to think that you're applying for a job to show that you're the right fit, but keep in mind that you're also assessing if they're the right fit for you. And you can start with assessing what the job description says, and don't be afraid to ask questions, because you have the leverage too. They need somebody in this role. You have the leverage to ask what you need to ask to know if they're the right fit for you. I could leave it at that. I think we've covered a couple of specific advice, like don't be afraid to ask if this is a backfill or if this is net new, and why is this role open now? Who should it report to? Who does it work with? What's the ecosystem that it's working within? Because you're not going to be working in a silo, you're going to be working in a system. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
And Paul, what about you?
Kathi, you're so polite and so nice, and you resisted the urge to just like call these people the worst names on the face of the earth. Good for you. I applaud you. I I read through this job ad, and I was like, for the first time, and for the folks at home, that's kind of a part of what we do at the very end of the show. Like, we read through it for the first time. We haven't seen it before, and then kind of round out our judgment a little bit on what we've been talking about. This thing is a dumpster fire. It's a nightmare. The job ad itself, like, I'd give it probably a 2 out of 10. It just wasn't written well. It wasn't descriptive in the right way. It was structured awkwardly. There was a bunch of stuff missing from the job ad that you really needed to be in there, like the employer brand stuff, like what's our mission? Why should you work here? What's in it for you? For me, that was a huge mess, because I think, Kathi, you said earlier on in the episode, what it seems to be the overall mission, is actually really great. Create a world of polyglots, create a world where people can communicate like person to person without technology in the middle, kind of buggering everything up. That's a great mission. We won't talk about it at all. It's goofy. Like, this job ad sucks. 2 out of 10. Role design, like 1 out of 10. This role design is brutal. It's brutal. There's no way that there's going to be a large pool of candidates who feel that they can really like tackle this. Like, the perfect person to take this job, honestly, I believe, is Sam Altman's Claude enabled Chia Pet. That is the only entity that's going to be able to do this job and not like fall apart because they're a Chia Pet. They don't have any emotions. Like, what is going on here? This is goofy. At the very end, they kind of threw in something about cultural sensitivity. So they're saying, we have customers all over the world. So, you need to be able to understand, I'm paraphrasing, like, basically you need to have cultural sensitivity to people in Latin America, Southeast Asia. And that's a very valid point. Like, cultural differences when you're working in international sales, and they have an office in China too, they said. So there's going to be internal dynamics around cultural sensitivity that you're going to need to be able to navigate. But they kind of just threw this in at the very end as like a throwaway statement. That's no, like, you needed to be able to talk about the importance of that in a much richer, much deeper way, because it will be a big part of the job. Like, if you're doing instructional design from Canada for customers who are buying your stuff in Latin America, that ain't small.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. Like, That line was the only indication of the soul behind the role, and it was an afterthought.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a throwaway statement at the very end. It was goofy. 2 out of 10. And that's because I'm feeling good. It's Monday and whatever. If I was in a bad mood, this would be a negative 2 billion.
I like it. Spicy Paul.
Spicy Paul. I would say, like, if we could award them a participation ribbon, that's as good as it would get for me, which I guess maybe is like 1 out of 10 on both job design and job description, because somebody had to do it. And so kudos to them for showing up and putting pen to paper. I think again, for all the reasons you both listed, I'm not gonna just, feed a fed horse here, but like I so, was that your pop bottle that just went? I thought you told me to
No. That was my water bottle opening. Yes,
Okay.
and it was not shushing you either. But in my brain, I was like, "Feed a fed horse." Jen, did you just coin a phrase? I kind of like that. I'm going to use it.
There are some PETA has some really good, just like different ways of saying things, like feed 2 birds with 1 scone. Is a really nice saying. It's just more gentle way of saying things, like feed a fed horse, and I prefer those.
Nobody likes killing birds. I don't like killing birds.
No, we have a bird nesting right above our door, and it's just like the sweetest thing ever. Okay, so going back to that, I don't want to feed a fed horse. We've already said how we feel, and we all agree. I think that the issue is going to be that they are either going to take forever to fill this role because they're never going to find anyone good enough for this role, but they haven't really done a good job describing what good enough is. And whoever they do get to fill this role is not going to succeed. And they're going to blame the candidate for it. Like you just know how it's going to play out, right? Like we're both, Kathi and I have both spent a lot of time in HR, and you just know how it's going to play out. Some poor soul is going to get this role. It's not going to be like their ideal candidate. It's not going to be their first choice because they didn't design the role, the job description, or the role for their ideal candidate. Like, who do you want in this role? Just make up, like we did, but like we made up a story about this whole thing. Make up the story about your ideal candidate. Who are they? Where do they come from? What do they like? And then reverse engineer and design that role for them. And then you will find each other, right? Like it will, in time and space, whatever, you will find each other, and then it'll all work out. But this isn't going to do that. And so, yeah, I just don't feel good for the individual who ends up getting hired into this role. It's not going to work out well, and they need to just do better. So, yeah.
I think this is one that you're going to see reposted, like in pretty short order.
You're correct, and I think it might get reposted under different names or different, like they're just going to keep trying to fill this role, and yeah, it's going to be disastrous all around.
Yeah, honestly, if they want to insist on this being a Frankenstein job, at least indicate like what would success look like, guys. Like throw the job applicants a bone. Like you're trying to attract the right people too, like you said, Jen.
That's such a good point. And think about what that interview would look like. Like at least if the candidate knew what success looks like, what to expect in their first like 30, 60, 90 days, and this is how we're going to like measure that success. That would give the candidates interviewing something to work with. They can speak to it, but you're giving them like nothing here. They're going to go to the interview with very little like ability to prepare for the role. So, yeah.
It also makes you think too, like if you were writing this job ad and you had to have the Frankenstein thing going on, like you say, Kathi, it would probably be pretty helpful to have some sort of indication of what the proportion of importance of each part is, because like in collaborative organizations, and this doesn't sound like that type of place, but in collaborative small organizations, you do wear a lot of hats, and there is like a blending of responsibilities, and there's lots of crossover, and you often participate in things that that aren't your job, because it kind of helps the team. And it can be really good for you as you're like learning and developing as well, to kind of pick up like those skills and that experience that's a little bit outside of the boundary.
Yeah.
But it would be great to know, like, okay, instructional design, this is like an A, super important. Participating in sales calls with the Ministry of Education, like I was like a C. It's going to add some value to the sales process, but it's not something that you need to stay up weeks and nights like cramming for to figure out how like the sales process works with government clients. Like stuff like that for a job like this that has to be a Frankenstein could be pretty useful.
I love that.
And for
Well,
people who are like, for people who are thinking about interviewing or applying for a job like this, go in armed with questions. Go in armed with questions. You're going to want to ask a lot of questions to see if this is the place for you. Because like we said earlier in the episode, like you're interviewing the employer as much as potential employer, as much as they are interviewing you. Like a lot of folks go into job interviews thinking like, I can't really ask my own questions. I can only really speak when spoken to. I have to be respectful and deferential. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Is it bad that my ultimate advice is run away? Like,
well, just like
don't
the
even
last
apply.
one
From this
review.
one, oh my God, I've never said on a taping before, an episode before, that you should absolutely not apply for this job. People don't apply for this job. My God.
But if you did and you interviewed, hit us up because we want to talk. We can have a follow-up reunion episode and we can talk about it as well, because I'd be really curious, like, to see what kind of hot mess the interview process is.
And we will blur your face and put on like a little like mustache with a filter or something. We'll put on like a voice disguiser. We'll guarantee your anonymity. Hit us up. We want to talk to you if you applied for this job.
Yeah,
I want to know if this was a backfill for Martha. I already have Martha in my head. She wrote this job description and she quit.
she was like, see ya on the flip side, going on my cruise. So I guess we can consider this post roasted.
Yeah, but don't eat it. See you next week, folks. Thanks for riding shotgun with us on Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points. If this episode helped you make sense of a messy job posting or just confirmed your instincts, go find that subscribe button and tap it. We're on YouTube and all the usual podcast apps, so follow us wherever you like to listen. And if you've seen a posting that made you raise an eyebrow, laugh, or seriously question the sanity of the hiring process, send it our way. Listener submissions are some of our favorites. Follow the link in the show notes for more. We'll be back next week with another Post to Roast.